Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Modi with OddsJam, and today I'll be doing my four picks video. So I know last week I switched up the format of how I did it. I'm actually, after speaking with the higher ups at OddsJam, I'm actually going back to the original format I had. It's okay if some of them aren't positive EV. Obviously, you try to get them positive EV as much as you can, but the whole point of sports betting is supposed to be fun, and it's not super fun if I come out with the video and I'm just like, here are four picks from the positive EV page. Obviously, you want some football analysis. People that have the product can look at this all they want. So obviously, I'm still making sure those four picks count last week because it would be cheap not to. But for the purpose of this video, I'll be going back to the original format, which is one lock, one underdog, one player and game prop. The rules for the lock is that the odds can't be worse than minus 200. So I wouldn't be able to take the Bills money line at minus 560, even though they probably are close to a lock to win. And the underdog has to be plus money. So earlier this week, I think both the odds on the Steelers-Titans were technically not plus money. They're both minus money. Obviously, those have changed, and the Titans are now plus 110. But in a situation like that, it has to be underdog, or it has to be plus money underdog. Can't be a situation where you sell points where like the Giants are favored by like 10 or something, and I buy them up to 14 to get plus money. No, it has to be an underdog that is not favored to win. So looking through the slate, the first thing I try to do is find a situation where I could take a money line that is better than minus 200. So I have the Colts tonight at minus 132. I don't feel super confident in the Colts. The Patriots, they've won a lot, 6 or 7 straight. They're currently the number one seed in the NFL. I'm pretty sure they have the best point differential in the NFL. Sorry, number one seed in the AFC. If they win, they would be. I guess the Chiefs technically caught them. But either way, that's going to be a good game. I'm not super confident either way. And if I had to make a prediction, I would take the Patriots to win. I can't see them letting Jonathan Taylor run for as many yards as he has been. And I do think that they'll be able to force Wentz into some turnovers. So this game I'm not going to touch. The next money line is the Steelers at minus 116 against the Titans. Another favorite that I'm not comfortable taking. Last time we saw the Steelers, they put up a piss poor effort against the Vikings on Thursday Night Football. They ended up coming back and making a game of it, but this is not the Steelers team you're used to seeing. And the Titans, the Titans are a weird team. They've had some terrible losses, but they have some great wins too. Even without Derrick Henry, they've had some great wins. So I don't feel comfortable there. The Browns, too much weirdness. They really know who's going to start for quarterback. We assume it's going to be Baker, but we don't know. Him and Keenum are both in the COVID protocols. And then similar weirdness with the Rams and Eagles games. So, and those are also on Tuesday. This is supposed to be for Saturday for the weekend, not including Monday night. So what I ended up settling on was this Bills-Panthers game here. And this is risky, but I'm going to take the Bills at minus 13 at plus 102 on Unibet. I haven't locked this in yet. I'll do that live now. And so once I lock it in, I'll go ahead and give my logic of why I'm taking the Bills. I finally fixed the location issue on my computer, so I'm able to lock this stuff in live, which is very exciting for me, not for everybody else. But now you can just, instead of having to post a screenshot later, you can just see me lock it in. So while this is running, so the Bills, they only have a 7-6 record. But if you look at their point differential, I believe they are, let me just go to NFL standings. I believe they have one of the best, so the plus 134 point differential. I believe that is the second best in the NFL. That is, to the Patriots. So the Patriots did have the best. But when you look at their schedule, the teams that they're supposed to beat, like the Panthers, take away this Jaguars game, which was really weird, they absolutely blow them out. So week 1 against the Dolphins, they're heavy favorites, 135-0. That was week 2. Week 3 against Washington football team, won by 22. Beat the Texans 40-0. Beat the Chiefs by 18. The Dolphins by 15. Again, weird game against the Jaguars. Those games happen. Beat the Jets by 28. Beat the Saints by 25. And then 2 tough losses to the Patriots and the Buccaneers. And then they did get blown out by the Colts. But the point of this is, in the games where the Bills are heavily favored, when they win, they blow teams out. So that is how they have a positive plus 134 point differential while only being 7-6. So I'm comfortable that this is going to be a game that the Bills are going to dominate against the Panthers. The Panthers, no one really talks about them, but the Panthers are sneakily absolute train wreck. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. They're sneakily a train wreck. They've been talking about doing a dual QB system with PJ Walker and Cam Newton. Matt Rule, I would have thought going into the season and how the season played out, I would have thought is a really good coach, but he really has been struggling. They fired their offensive coordinator. This team just has no idea what they're doing. So I'm very confident that the Bills will be able to win by 13. As you can saw, I in this case, I did buy a point. So my lock is actually going to be plus money, but that's how confident I am that the Bills are going to blow them out. So there is the bet placed, and we're good to go there. And if you look at the Bills' wins, every single win they have, I believe, is by more than 13 points. So I know I just went through their schedule. Their losses are close, except for the one against the Colts where they got blown out. But their wins are not close. And the Panthers, I just think that they're close to a train wreck. So 13 points for the Bills. I'm very comfortable. So that's going to be my lock, as you can see. Sorry, I placed that on Unibet. Bills plus 102, minus 13. So for the underdog, this is a week where there's a ton of huge spreads and a lot of weirdness going on. The Eagles play on Tuesday. There's two different lines, which is funny enough. There's two games on Tuesday. There's two games on Monday. I would have thought the Bucs would blow out the Saints last time they played, and the Saints won. And the Ravens don't have their starting quarterback. The Falcons are terrible. The Titans, I did consider them, but I ended up going with a team that has better odds, and I really do think it's going to win. So what I settled on was this Bengals-Broncos game at plus 140. So the Bengals are a weird team. They started out with an awesome defense that kind of got torched last week against the 49ers, and they really couldn't get a stop. So this week against the Broncos, I believe the Broncos are the home team. Yeah, but that's okay. Excuse me. So the Bengals, I have a lot of faith in Joe Burrow, and I know they've kind of been they're kind of such a weird hit or miss team. So they blow out the Ravens in a game that both teams are healthy. The following week they lose to the Jets. So you figure the week after that they'll show up. And then they got blown out by the by the Browns. Then the next 2 weeks, annihilated opponents, Raiders and Steelers, and then got blown out by the Chargers and blew a very winnable game against the 49ers. Losing to the 49ers themselves isn't really anything to be ashamed of, because the 49ers, despite what I thought earlier in the year, actually aren't a terrible team. But the Bengals should have won that game. They had the ball first in OT. They drove down the field, but they couldn't score it, and they gave up a touchdown on the next end. But in that overtime, they had one of their cornerbacks or safeties, Jesse Bates, I forget what specific position, dropped an interception. So this week against the Broncos, I have a lot of faith that the Bengals will bounce back. So when they've struggled before, and let me log into my Caesars account. They've showed weeks. They've struggled 2 weeks in a row, and then they bounce back. So I think that this is going to be a bounce back game for the Bengals. I have a lot of faith in Joe Burrow. The Broncos, I know that I've picked against them when they were an underdog. I had the Chargers as a lock against them in a previous week, but I just don't have a lot of faith in this Broncos team. They, Teddy Bridgewater is an okay quarterback, but he actually has a lot of decent weapons at his disposal, and he isn't really able to use them. They mostly rely on their running game. But with Joe Burrow on the other side, I just think that this is going to be a game that the Bengals are going to be able to win. So the Bengals at plus 140 on both DraftKings and Caesars. So the OddsJam perfect line has them at plus 132. So it's not quite positive EV if you take out the VIG, but getting them at plus 140 is still better than what the OddsJam perfect line is. And it's a bet that I'm very comfortable in. So let me lock this in real quick. Location verified, good to go. Bengals plus 140, that'll be my next 100. Place bet, I think we're good to go. All right, so for the player and game prop, this is where I do like to use the OddsJam positive EV page, because that's where you get that's where you find the most value is on player props, and you do have some good game props too. So I have this filtered for only football. As you can see, there are some ones that I've locked in. The one that I'm considering is this Devontae Adams over 90.5 receiving yards. I've already locked this in prior to this video, but it's not one of my 4 bets. I ended up deciding against it because while I do think he goes over, I could see this being a game where, because the Ravens are starting, they have starting, I believe his name is Tyler Huntley, not Lamar Jackson. I could see that being a game where the Packers don't have to throw the ball a lot, and I'd be worried about him hitting the over 90.5, despite me already locking it in for what my calculator told me, 75. I'm gonna end up going with something else. So scrolling down, the James Robinson under receptions, I'm not super confident in because, ding dong, the witch is gone. Urban Meyer been fired. I could see this being a game where James Robinson and the Jaguars are just so happy that the scum of the earth human being Urban Meyer is gone. And James Robinson had been in the doghouse. I could see them going to him a ton. And then there's a ton of props for the game tonight, the Colts Patriots. We might come back to that. I'll let you know. But what I'm going to end up settling on, let's just keep going through. The Wentz passing attempts over 31.5, I do like a lot. But, they've been using, sorry for my dog in the background, that's Carson for you. What I ended up settling on is, let's see. So let me just go through and make sure I don't miss anything. Any good player props. So what I ended up settling on is this, where is it? Ramondre Stevenson over 70.5 rushing yards. So with Damian Harris out, I think this is going to be a game where the Patriots lean heavily on Ramondre Stevenson. And if you look at his stats, he's been getting a lot of carries recently. I know, obviously, the week against the Bills was weird because of the wind and stuff. They only threw, I think, 3 times. But in games where Damian Harris has missed, which granted hasn't been a ton, he gets a ton of work. So this Cleveland game, obviously they blew him out, but he played 55% of the snaps. He played 63 against the Bills, and he put up over the 70.5 rushing yards. So I don't necessarily think they're going to throw it 3 times, but I do think they're going to lean heavily on the run game. And Ramondre Stevenson has proven to be a guy that can handle a lot of carries in a game. So I already locked this one in prior to the video, but I'll take it again for 100 just to prove that it's going to be one of my player prop picks. So I locked it in for 60. That's not what. Let me go to the game tonight. Ramondre Stevenson rushing yards. So over 70.5 minus 110. This is going to be my next player prop. I literally just locked this in. There we go. Okay, so I ended up having a lot of exposure on this one, but that's okay. Because it's a player prop that I'm really confident in. Like I said, in games where he's had to carry the load, which he will tonight. I know he's only gone over twice, but that's because his snaps have consistently been in the 30s. And the 2 times it was over 50%, he went over. And I think this is going to be a game where he'll be over that 50%. I would imagine he'll be over 60% because they're going to lean heavily on the run game. While the Colts do have a good run defense, I still think that the Patriots will be able to run the ball on them. So that's going to be my player prop, is this Ramondre Stevenson over 70.5 rushing yards. If you want the math behind it to prove the positive EV, so the OddsJam perfect line has it at minus 145, which gives it a 55% winning percentage. And we are getting that on FanDuel at minus 110. So there's a positive value there. I do have a lot of faith in that play. Obviously, that's why I'm making it my lock. And for the game prop, this one I haven't actually settled on yet. So let's just go through and see what we got here. So first half points over in the Bears-Vikings. I don't feel confident making that my lock. As you can see, if you look at what the VIG removed, it's only 46% chance of hitting. So I don't want to put too much faith in that. And then this Bucks game, again, the plus money. I don't mind taking plus money game props, but I like ones with better chance of hitting. And let's see here. So we have the over in tonight's game, Colts-Patriots, which I do like. 44.5 is not a ton of points. Some positive value there. Let's see what else we got. I want to find one if it's a little bit better odds, and that is obviously also for NFL. First half points over 21.5 is at minus 110 on Caesars. Isn't terrible. let's see what we got here. The first half under 21.5. This might be the one that I actually end up settling on. So let me just make sure I'm not missing any good plays. Oh, the Bills' first half spread is on here. That's funny. No, nothing great. Under 46.5. It's not terrible, but if the Bills are going to put up as much, it's tough. You limit yourself if you take the favorite at such a heavy spread and then also take the under. You don't give yourself a lot of space to hit both. So what I'm going to end up settling on, I actually did like this Steelers Titans under 21.5 first half points. That one's on DraftKings. I might need to put money in my account because I actually have. I might need to deposit. I ended up putting a lot on DraftKings, but that's okay. I'll do that as I'm betting. And the reason why I like it, so if you look at the first half total under 21.5, let me make sure I have this right. -1. Where is that? Am I losing my mind? Let me just search for it. Sorry. That's not it. That's not it. Here we go. Wait. There we go. Okay, sorry. I was losing my mind. Okay, so getting it at -110 odds. The OddsJam perfect line has it at -125. So if you remove the VIG, it has about a 53% chance of hitting, which we're getting at -110 odds. So that's the math behind it. I'm going to have to log in. That's okay. And so the football reasons why I like it is, so the Steelers offense has been really hit or miss, but they seem to come on late. So if you look at their most recent games, so against the Chargers, 27 points in the fourth quarter, only 10 at halftime. The following week, the Bengals, they only scored 10 points, 3 in the first half. If you want to keep going, again, another game where they came on late, only 3 points in the first half, 17 in the fourth quarter against the Ravens, and then last week against the Vikings, they got shut out in the first half. So for whatever reason, they seem to be a slow starting team. And if we looked at their first half totals, they've scored 6 points in the last 3 weeks. Yes, add it. That's okay. And it just has not been a fast starting team. So for the 21.5 points, I don't expect, like I said, I don't expect the Steelers to start fast. And then if you look at the Titans, their offense has been really hit or miss, but they've kind of struggled since losing Derrick Henry. So really, they lost him. I forget what week, but if you look at their point total, they scored 28 against. That was a good win. That Rams, I believe that was Sunday night. That was a legitimately good win. I think this was one of their first games without Henry. Yeah, it was. That was impressive. I'll give them credit there. 21 points in the second quarter, excuse me. That was good. But since that good win, they put up 23 against the Saints, which is a good defense. If you look at 13 at halftime, that's pretty good. I would be surprised if they put up 13 at halftime. The Saints have a good defense. That was a good performance. But since then, the past 3 weeks, 13 against the Texans, a really bad defense. 13 against the Patriots, which was a good defense. And then they put up 20 points against Jacksonville, but this was not an impressive offensive performance. They got 4 interceptions from Trevor Lawrence. If you look at their stats, they only had 263 total yards. And this was the game that got Urban fired. Okay, I might have to show a screenshot of this bet being placed. Sorry about this. Let me just do it from my PayPal. Anyway, so let me go back to the Titans. So, like I said, they only put up 263 yards. This was the game that got Urban fired, a Jacksonville team that just didn't care. And, while the Steelers' defense has kind of been hit or miss too, they got lit up last week against the Vikings. The Vikings' offense actually, sneakily isn't that they have a lot of good playmakers. Okay, there we go. Now the bet's been placed. Sorry about that craziness. Like I said, the Titans' offense has been really bad recently. 262 total yards against the Jaguars. If you look prior to that, the Texans was gross. They put up 420 yards, but they couldn't score. Tannehill threw 4 interceptions. They had another fumble lost. They had a similar issue against the Patriots where they did put up yards, but they just couldn't score. So 355 yards isn't a ton, but look at the turnovers. 3 fumbles lost and 1 interception thrown, so 4 turnovers. So this week against the Steelers, I'm expecting a slugfest. So the official play, I know because it's been a little bit, was this halves, under 21.5 first half points, Titans Steelers. So I got that at minus 110 odds. As you can see, the OddsJam perfect line has it at minus 125. This one is within the market width, so it's only 17 there. The Ramondre Stevenson one was a little bit outside of it, but it was a play that I really liked, so I was willing to accept it. And those are going to be my 4 plays. So just to recap, we got the Bills at minus 13 on Unibet. We got the Bengals money line at plus 140 on Caesars and DraftKings Sportsbook. The game prop is going to be this first half, Titans Steelers first half under 21.5 at minus 110 odds. And the game prop is going to be Ramondre Stevenson over 70.5 rushing yards. Tonight's game, Colts Patriots. Those are going to be my 4 picks. The lock, dog, game, and player prop. And let me know what you think. I'd love to hear some feedback. I try to be as willing as I can to listen to the feedback. Sometimes it just depends on the situation. But I love hearing feedback. You can hit me up on Twitter at my handle below, Modi_sports. You can also email me, Matthew@oddsjam.com. Or you can comment on the video. Like I said, I do try to check those out as much as possible. But that's all I got for you. I'll post a screenshot of all the bets at the very end, just so you guys can see that. But that's all I got for you. So happy betting, happy watching, and good luck.